Okay, welcome to episode 10 of the Leadership Zoomcast. Albert, how are you doing this week?
I'm good. Episode 10. God, we're going, aren't we? We're going.
I know, I never thought we'd get to double figures. Well, at least we're enjoying it. I hope other people are too.
Yeah, look, I think looking at some of the comments and some of the feedback we're getting, yeah, it's good. We're getting some good stuff coming back. It's also interesting to see we're getting other people connecting. So people I haven't heard from for a while are also giving us some feedback and comments. So that's good. So yeah, it's good. So where are you this week, by the way? You're not in the UK, right?
No, I'm not in the UK. I took the risk of traveling into flu-infected Europe. And actually going across the border, the barbed wire fences and all that kind of stuff are absolutely fine. But no, we're down in France, in the French Alps, working down here for a few weeks. Just change of scenery, really.
Okay, good.
But really, really good. Yeah. No. So and the obviously Sunday, because it's now Monday today. Sunday was the end of the Premier League season.
Yeah, it was indeed.
Being an Arsenal fan, it's a bit of a sad Premier League season for us. But clearly it was great for Liverpool fans. And Albert and I were just talking about, because uncovering great leadership is also about understanding what great leaders do and looking for evidence of great leadership.
Yeah. And
one of those is clearly Juergen Klopp and what he's done with Liverpool. And so we were talking about that this morning. There's an area of leadership around Juergen Klopp, which I think is worth exploring a little bit more. But Albert, what are your thoughts and observations around Liverpool and Juergen Klopp and what he's done?
Yeah. So what I would put right up front, for anyone that knows me well, I'm not deep into football. I have got loads of friends who are, and apparently lots of football fans are also experts. I don't know if you know that, Neil, but they all know everything about football. So hopefully some of those will watch this with interest. But yeah, I mean, the reason that we go into this is because there's lots written about Juergen Klopp, his style, his approach. There's lots written about his team and where they've come from and where they're at, right? Do we think there's a connection between him and his leadership and the results they've just had? I'd suggest probably so, right? So that's probably a good reason, Neil, to use that as a catalyst here, right?
Yeah, and I love watching leaders perform, and you can just tell by, his passion, the energy on the touchline, but also his when he's interviewed, everything about him comes across as a great example of leadership.
Yeah.
But and there's lots written about him. But there was one topic I thought was particularly interesting, which is about building trust amongst the team.
Yeah.
And given that's come up quite a lot in the conversations we've had about great leaders build trust, I thought it was worth exploring that today.
Yeah.
And there was a comment I picked up from Sadio Mane, one of his players, talking about Juergen Klopp. He said he's a great player. He's a great person. I trust him blindly, like most of the dressing room. Now, how do you get that kind of dedication and trust in you as a leader? I think that's worth exploring.
Yeah.
What are your initial thoughts on the topic of trust?
I think around the whole trust thing, because I think it's also we need to think about this, guys, from leaders and their teams. And for me, trust is a two-way process, right? Trust is not one way. So we could have a team that absolutely trusts us, but if we don't trust our team, they will see that anyway, right? It'd be dead obvious to them. They'll see that. So you've got to have that two-way. And I think Juergen's got that, right? They absolutely trust him, but he absolutely trusts them on the pitch. There's one comment that you see that Juergen's made, Neil, about having really good experts and clever people working for him. And he has absolute trust that their role is to perform the best for the team. Does he worry that they're there to try and undermine him? Does he worry that they're trying to knock him off his pedestal and come? No, he absolutely trusts that what they are there to do is they will apply that for the good of the team. And that means he behaves in a certain way. He's open to them, completely open to them.
Yeah, and there's a number of things that you've mentioned there that probably create trust.
Mm.
So being open to people
Yep.
creates trust. Trusting people creates trust.
Yep.
And it's interesting. I looked up the definition of the word trust, and it says firm belief in the reliability or ability of someone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's having that belief that the person in your team is reliable and able.
Yep.
That's trust. So how does I suppose so how does a leader get trusted by? So if we look at it that way, Ryan, so how does the leader become trusted by his team? So I think part of it we've said is the way you trust people. But what else? There must be more than that. There must be what else do they do?
It's got to be about behaviors, right? So this trust comes because they see the behaviors that you deliver and that you espouse, right? So do you support them publicly, right? Publicly, you're there to support your team and to endorse your team, even if things might not be 100%, right? But how many times have we had conversations publicly with members of our team, and then you go into a room afterwards and talk about what you really think and how you can improve? So endorsing them, supporting them, honesty, right? If they know they're getting honesty from you, they're going to trust you more, right? You're not playing a game. You're not hiding things in the back of your mind. You're honest and open with them. And then they feel they can be honest and open with you. Under that definition of trust, on one of the definitions I saw, the word integrity is there. And this comes back to a conversation we had some weeks ago, right? I think probably with Gene, probably with Ian as well, right? You've got to have integrity in the way that you behave. I think some people call it authentic leadership, right? Maybe that's what I'm calling it. But I think it comes back to that, Neil. Sorry, that's a lot that I just dumped out there in one go.
No, but it's a lot. It's a good point because trust is not given; it's earned, isn't it? You have to earn the trust of your team, and you do that through consistently doing things in a consistent way, but having that integrity to do the right things, support people in the right way, let people know you've got their back, that there is a safety net there, that you're their buffer, and that's so having the buffer is really, really key, isn't it? So you're not being targeted, left hung out to dry by your boss. Your boss is saying, look, I'm responsible for this because I'm responsible. And you see this in football, and you certainly see in Juergen Klopp. If the team doesn't do well, he says, I'm responsible. If the team does well, he says they're responsible. And that's a great example of earning trust.
Actually, it's good because the thing that you just mentioned there around having to earn it, and how do some leaders behave, right? I'd like to believe the right way is that you trust everybody until they give you a reason not to. That's got to be a great place to start from, right? I think we had it on a different broadcast where we talked about, always believe positive intent on behalf of someone. Likewise here, always trust someone until they give you a reason not to. Does that mean you then mistrust them forever? No. That means let's try and work out why that trust situation broke down, and let's try and get it back on track. It may not get back on track. Then you have to make a decision, right? But starting from the point of trust everyone until they give you a reason not to, has got to be a good place to start from.
Yeah, actually, and it is. So basically, as a leader, you start from the point that says, I trust my team. I trust they're going to do the right things. I trust in their ability and their reliability until proven not. And if I'm proven not, then who do I look at first? Maybe I look at me first to go, okay, maybe I didn't give them the right direction, guidance. Maybe they didn't know what good looked like. And therefore, I need to look at me and how I can communicate better. Or maybe I haven't got the skills. So yeah, I think that is a really good point. I think that's a great point about just about that openness.
Who's the manager? Sorry, who's the captain in Liverpool? Jordan Henderson, right?
Jordan
Is that right?
Henderson, yeah,
Right.
well
So
done.
there's a conversation. There's a conversation that you and I were talking about earlier, right? Between Jordan, but when Juergen Klopp was talking about Jordan Henderson, and he was saying what makes his fantastic player, and those two things he cited: talent and attitude.
Yeah.
If something went wrong, don't automatically believe that trust was actually the challenge there. Something might have gone wrong because they didn't have the right skills and ability,
Mm-hmm.
or the attitude was wrong. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the attitude links back to trust, right? Why was that wrong? It may have been a skill level. It may have been a talent issue. Somebody may have not done what you expected them to do because they couldn't. Not because they chose not to, but because they couldn't.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But if you've got the trust right, maybe somebody could put their hand up and say, do you know what, Neil, I think I could do this. I know you want me to send me into battle or to go win this deal or to go do this presentation. I can't. But you need the trust for someone to be open to say that to you and don't feel there'll be any retribution for that, right?
And actually, it's a really good point again, which is about this. It is no retribution. It's creating that environment where even if it doesn't go right, you trust that someone tried to do the best they could. You trust that they were doing the best they could with what they had. So there's an interest. So the reason trust is important then is because it creates a better performance from the individual. I mean, I guess let's look at our own. So have you ever worked for anyone that you really trusted them as a leader?
Yeah. Should I mention a name here? I could mention a name here, couldn't I?
Yeah, could do.
Yeah. So Andrew Spencer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Andrew Spencer was a vice president in a role in the Big Blue where I worked, where I absolutely trusted what was now. Were we always the best of friends, and did I always feel dead comfortable in that relationship? I knew he was the boss. He knew he was the boss. And at one point in time, I was a very junior executive. But I trusted a couple of things. One, he wanted me to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So it was his need for me to be successful, one on a professional level, but also on a personal level, because he put me in the job. So he wanted me to be successful. Did I trust that when he came to give me advice, that he might have beaten me up along the way in his style of coaching? Again, I trusted that was for my good and for good of the business, not for his self-satisfaction, but because the ultimate goal was success for both of us and growth, right? So yeah, I mean, Andrew would absolutely come to mind as somebody who gave me tough love, really difficult to work under to start with, until you realized, and the trust was absolutely both ways.
So you trusted that the actions or the conversations were coming from the right place.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
100%. At the first time that things may not have gone so well, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if that was just because I hadn't made him look good in a particular situation. Now, here's an interesting thing. He trusted that something was going to happen at the end of that quarter, and it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And he was really upset about that, right? What was interesting was that wasn't my commitment. There was a boss between me and him. I made a different commitment, and the commitment that person made to him, he thought was my commitment. So he trusted 100% because he thought it came from me, and it didn't. So that was actually quite interesting for us to work out where he thought he'd failed on trusting me. He hadn't. We'd failed on communication. So the trust never went away. Right? Really interesting dynamic.
And of course, Andrew's a big Liverpool fan as well. So
he is a big Liverpool fan, and I might encourage him to watch this, and he can give me some comment back. Actually, he might also tell us where we've gone wrong in assessing Juergen Klopp as well.
Oh yeah, and I wouldn't presume to assess Juergen Klopp, but it was the topic of trust that I thought was really, really interesting. And have you ever worked for someone where you didn't trust them as a leader?
Yeah, I won't do names here.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. So That's an interesting point, actually. So how was my behaviour?
Yeah, different. Yeah.
First of all, my comfort was never good, right? So from a feeling comfortable coming to work, wondering what's going to happen today, looking over my shoulder, are my team going to get attacked? And I didn't know that was going to come. Um, would I have to double all the work I did? Because I'd have to double and triple check everything just in case.
Yeah.
Because if anything went wrong, I was probably going to get, hauled over the coals rather than an understanding as to what happened. So yeah, my whole world was different. That's crazy. I've never thought about it actually. My whole
Yeah.
world was different under that
And
dynamic.
so, and so it creates a completely different team dynamic then. Well,
Completely.
actually, I bet in that scenario, there was very little leadership team. There
Yeah,
was just leadership individuals
yeah,
because
yeah.
everybody's trying to look out for themselves because they don't trust what's
Yeah.
coming next. And
But let's just explore that one a little bit more then, Neil. Because have you ever found yourself in a similar situation at all?
with a leader I don't
Yeah.
trust,
Yeah.
I was trying to think of that actually, and no, I can't think of one where trust was a worry for me.
Okay.
No, I
Okay.
can't.
Okay.
No, yeah, there's certainly ones that I had a better relationship with, but that's different to trust.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I guess the other thing I'm just thinking through is, did that make me behave differently with my team? And I don't think it did. But now you come back to this word you used earlier, right, about me being the buffer.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
even though, we've used the phrase about treat people the way you want to be treated. And I think the important thing here is treat people the way you want to be treated and not the way you are being treated, right? So
yeah.
just because I'm not being treated with trust doesn't
Yeah,
mean I should let that flow down to my team. I've got to make sure I don't let them suffer the impact of my
yeah.
trust break
So
above.
somewhere the buffer has to stop, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Somewhere you've got to put that buffer in, and it could be first line manager level,
yeah,
or it could be second line manager, it could be third line manager. Someone's the buffer's got to stop.
yeah,
And it's interesting. I just wrote down a few things here about when I felt I trusted someone and why I trusted them. And I think it came down to the ideas I've written down where, so they do what they say they're going to do. So you trust them to follow through and do what they say they're going to do.
yeah,
You know that they've got your back, so they're not going to leave you exposed. And you know that gives you the opportunity to. It's okay if something goes wrong, because you know they've got your back. And you know that they're in it for the good of the business and the business outcome and the business as a team. So
yeah,
you know that their intentions are for the good of the whole team or the whole business.
yeah,
And the whatever does that mean you have easy conversations with them the whole time? No, but you know if you're having a tough conversation with them,
yeah,
you're having a tough conversation because they're trying to do the best for the team. And
yeah,
actually, Juergen Klopp, there's a lot about Juergen Klopp and the fact that, you know, he can get very emotional with players when he feels they've let the team down.
mm,
That doesn't mean he doesn't trust them anymore.
yeah,
And he's coming from a place of engaging with trust. And actually, if you look at other football managers, you've got to question whether their team trust them. Being an Arsenal fan, I do watch Tottenham performance quite regularly. And, Jose Mourinho, I don't think, from what I observe, is able to generate trust in him as a leader or amongst the team. It always seems to be they're trying to protect themselves, and he's always attacking the team.
Now that's interesting, right? Because what's the dynamic then on how they perform? Let me ask a different question. Why do they perform then? Because they're not performing for him by the sounds of things.
My observation and what I've read would be, no, they're not.
There's
You
a
know?
huge breakdown there then, right? So there's someone in the team who's not in the team.
Yeah, well, that's a really good point. So there's someone in the team who's not in the team, and he happens to be the leader. uh, and actually, you could, the other thing that popped into my head as we're talking about trust is what you see in the US around politics.
Yeah.
And, I know we're stepping outside of football for a sec, but, the way Donald Trump runs his presidency, it doesn't seem to be built around building trust.
Yeah.
It seems to be built around the opposite of blame and self-protectionism.
Yeah. Look, some level of fear can be healthy. If you're fearing for your job every day and you're fearing for survival, that you cannot perform at your best, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything good about bad fear. And what I mean by bad fear is fear of losing something.
Yeah.
So there is good fear, which is fear of stepping outside your comfort zone, that fear of being uncomfortable. And certainly good leaders should encourage their team to step outside their comfort zone and be fearful. But they're fearful, they know they've got a safety net behind them, which is their boss, because they trust their boss is going to catch them.
Yeah.
So that's a really important point. That's how you earn trust as well, actually, is you allow your team to express themselves, and it's okay if it doesn't work, but at least you tried.
Yeah. It's interesting because what you just talked through there also commented around performance, right? So we look in here and say, do we think that Liverpool's performance in any way is linked to Juergen's trust in them?
I would say if it's not 100%, it's a very high percentage reason, yeah.
Right. So that's a huge lesson here, guys. Just think about that, right? You can get better performance with the same team, with the same capability, if you can build trust into it.
And it was interesting, which is 100% true, right? Is that if you build trust in your team and they build trust in you, because it's reflected, it's Newton's law. It's the, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. You give out trust, you're going to get trust back.
Yep.
Okay, that's a really key point. One of the examples I was reading about Juergen Klopp was he looks at his players as whole people, not just as footballers. He's really interested in them personally. There was something I read about one of the coaching staff didn't know that one of the players' wives was due to have a baby in the next week or so. And he said, how can you not know that? It's the most important thing in his life. And so to Klopp, it was second nature that he's interested in those people as people. And that engenders trust again, because if you've got that kind of relationship, that's got to engender trust in you as a leader, because you care about them as a person, not just as the player on the pitch or the person in the business. It was, to be honest,
think about.
Go on.
That leads me to think about, is trust something you can just go on a course for? Is trust something you can just pick up from YouTube, right? Or is trust the kind of person you are?
Oh, that's a good question. So can you teach trust? So I suppose there's a formula. There's probably a formula of things. If you do this, 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 and this, these are the sort of things that will build trust.
Yeah.
But if you do them in a formulaic, very logical, robotic way, that might build a level of trust. But unless you really believe in it, it probably isn't going to develop trust. So there's an interesting. So if you are a trusting person in general, in your general life, does that make you a better leader when it comes to trust as well?
I would think I would think yes, right? Because we shouldn't assume that all things are equal for everybody that's in a leadership role or wants to be in a leadership role, right? I think we could say maybe it takes a certain person, maybe it takes a certain set of attributes, and not everybody's got them, right? I'm never going to be a hairdresser, right? Guess what? Because I don't have that skill, I don't have that desire. I'm not interested in where you went on your holidays. All of that stuff doesn't work. So there's nothing wrong with saying maybe not everybody could be a leader, and then maybe not everybody has the ability to work with trust in the way that would be most beneficial. I'm not saying not everybody can't trust someone. Of course they can. Otherwise, people will never have relationships, right? But it's taken it to a different level.
And there's another question in there, right, as well, which is, some people, it takes longer to earn their trust than others. And that probably comes from they've been let down in the past. They've given their trust and it's been abused. So they're very slow or reluctant to give trust again in case they're hurt again.
Yeah.
Some people, maybe they just set a high bar for what's needed for me to trust you. And I suppose there's a bit of understanding that needs to happen there with the when you're assessing your team. I don't know. How do you assess who needs to you need to work on harder to develop trust than others? Yeah,
no, you're right. Yeah, maybe it comes back to this thing we said earlier, right? That you trust everyone until they give you a reason not to. It's completely comprehensible that some people come from a different perspective, which is prove to me that I should trust you and then I will. So you need evidence before you say, now you've made the bar.
Yeah. And actually, maybe it doesn't, as a leader, maybe don't work too hard at trying to, earn the trust of someone who's not ready to give you their trust yet.
Yeah.
Because that would be false then. So maybe you've just got to come from this authentic place of doing the things that you think are right, doing them for the right reasons, being interested in your people, your team, and being clear on what they need to do. And then trust will come with that.
Yeah.
Because some people will trust very quickly. And some will need a bit more time to do that.
Yeah. Now, it's a really interesting point, actually, Neil. Do you make it a deliberate outcome or goal that you're shooting for to build trust? Or do you accept that it will be a really powerful side effect of doing the right things? And I think trying to overdo it, because you could overdo it as well, couldn't you? You could be too plastic in your approach.
Yeah.
Let it be natural. Right? If someone's going to mistrust you or you're going to mistrust them because they've let you down or whatever, and by the way, don't give up if that trust fails. Look to repair it before you choose to walk away from it.
And if trust is lost, that doesn't mean it's gone forever.
No.
It just means there's a learning opportunity there to learn, I lost the trust of the team, or I lost the trust of the person in what I did in that situation. So now I need to earn that trust back, and you can earn it back by just doing the right things again.
Yeah.
So if you do it too often, then that might be a bit harder to build that trust up again in you. Because once trust is lost too much, then people aren't going to trust you to do the right thing, so they're not going to give to you.
I would say also, guys, right, if you're looking at this and saying, sorry, guys and gals, by the way, if I say guys, it's a non-gender term, right?
I'm the same. I use guys as a non-gender term all the time,
But what I would say there is, if that trust breaks down, look to learn, listen, understand what happened, right? Because don't automatically strike it out. Understand something must have gone wrong or something was misunderstood. Go and understand that first, because you could end up damaging a great relationship and a great machine that you two work together because you give up on something far too early. Take some time over that, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
chances that it was deliberate, it's pretty slim.
Exactly. And vice versa. You know, your boss doesn't necessarily do things to for the wrong reasons. Yeah. You know, or in general, they don't. In general. So I think so sort of pulling this together, you know, this belief in the reliability and the ability of people is what is the definition of trust.
Yep.
And you can see, and everything you read about Juergen Klopp and what he did with Liverpool is a great example of building that trust in each other as the team and building that trust in him as a leader. And that paid off massively in the results on the pitch and what he's done there.
Yeah.
And actually, you see what Pep Guardiola did with Man City, very, very similar.
Yeah.
And some of the younger leaders in the football and in other sports seem to struggle a little bit with that, I think, because they're trying to prove themselves.
Yeah.
So that confidence in themselves. And then you see where it's not working, perhaps in other teams, like in my view, with Jose Mourinho and what he's done. But it is a key part of leadership is trust. It's an absolute key part of trusting your team and the team trusting you. So, yeah, interesting topic. And congratulations to Liverpool for a great performance in the season. And thanks to Juergen Klopp for a few clues on great leadership.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, we've said it before, sport is a really good analogy and comparison for lots of other areas of life, right? How you work with the team, how you shoot for best achievement, how you train to be the best, etc., etc., etc. Sport's a great analogy and comparison to use. So, you know, great idea, Neil, using Juergen as our catalyst here, just to try and bring some of this out.
And I think as we go, as the leadership detectives go hunting for clues of great leadership, sport is going to keep coming up, I think. So let's wrap up then. So we're end of episode 10. So we'll move on to episode 11 next. Not sure what we're going to cover. We'll have a think about that this week, see what goes on in the news, see what comes up. Yeah. But thank you to everybody for listening, for subscribing. Albert, do you want to make any comments about feedback and stuff?
Yeah, because I tell you what I would really, really want to do, and look, unless we're reaching people, we can't get there. But I would really want us to respond to a topic that somebody else asks us to act on. So I know a while ago we did one about fairness, and that came from somebody commenting and asking us about what we thought about being fair. Yep. If you've got any other topics, guys, that you would like us to talk about here and to spend some time on, that would be great. Let us know in your comments, in your feedback. If you want to send it privately because you're not comfortable putting it on a public post, send it privately on a message. I'm very happy with that, guys. But it would be great that we are giving you what you want as opposed to us just running through the list of things that we think we could cover. We've got lots that you could do in the area of leadership, but it'd be great to hear from you.
Yeah, exactly. And if you've got any great leaders that you'd like us to talk to, then please let us know.
Yeah, we talked about politics and we steered away from politics, right, Neil, because it's risky. But guys, tell us if you've got any other characters you think we should look at.
Okay. So please subscribe, give us a thumbs up so that we know that we're hitting the mark and give us any feedback. And we look forward to speaking to you in a week's time in episode 11. Great to see you, Albert.
Yeah,
take care, mate.
Have a great week, guys. Talk to you again.
Cheers. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Cheers.